This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of CBN News Watch for Thursday, September 26th. I'm Mark Martin. Today, the acting director of national intelligence will testify on Capitol Hill today, talking about the whistleblower complaint Democrats are using to push impeaching President Trump, as the White House and Republicans push back. A shocker in Israel as the president gives Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the first chance to form a new government. We'll hear from Jerusalem about the challenges Netanyahu faces. Conservative and Christian students speak out about how free speech is being stifled on college campuses. And we'll hear what Christians face in the country with the worst persecution in the world, North Korea. Those stories and more today on Newswatch. We begin with the ongoing fallout over President Trump's phone call with the president of Ukraine. Last night, members of the House Intelligence Committee saw the whistleblower complaint just hours after the White House released the transcript of the conversation. In the call, President Trump urges Ukraine's president to open an investigation connected to Joe Biden and his son. The transcript shows President Trump asking President Zelensky to look into Biden's actions as vice president that allegedly might have helped his son's business dealings in Ukraine. But Zelensky says he was not pressured.
I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
Democrats insist there was a quid pro quo, but Republicans say there's no smoking gun. CBN's Jenna Browder is following this story, and she joins us now from Washington. Jenna, where do things stand now with impeachment?
Yeah, well, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has, of course, called for an impeachment inquiry, and she now has, for the first time, the majority of the House behind her. So things are ramping up. But, Mark, it is just that. It's an inquiry, and actual articles of impeachment have not been filed. So, Democrats, they have been doing these investigations and building this case of impeachment against President Trump for months now. This is just one more investigation to add to that list. So on a very practical level, actually very little changes on this impeachment front.
Well, what is next? What's next, Jenna?
Yeah, so the whistleblower complaint, as you were mentioning, comes out later today. So we're all keeping our eyes on that. And that should add some context to this transcript that was released yesterday. That should give us an idea of kind of what led into it, just the situation surrounding it. And then, of course, the acting director of national intelligence, he will testify on Capitol Hill today, and he will explain his handling of this whistleblower complaint, which there are a lot of questions about how he handled that.
Very true. All right. CBN's Jenna Browder from Washington. Thanks for following this, Jenna. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Turning now to Israel, where President Reuven Rivlin chose Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the first candidate to try to form a coalition government after last week's election. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, Netanyahu faces a daunting challenge to get enough seats for a new government.
President Rivlin made the choice after he realized he couldn't convince Netanyahu and blue and white leader Benny Gantz to form a unity government.
The ability of member of Knesset Benjamin Netanyahu to form a government is better right now. Therefore, sir, I've decided to grant you the possibility to form a government.
Netanyahu says he wants a broad unity government.
I accept this mission that you have given me. The order of the moment is a unity government, a broad national unity government that is formed quickly.
Netanyahu says Israel faces three main challenges: the growing military threat of Iran, Israel's economy, and securing international recognition for Israel's borders. Those borders, and especially the Jordan Valley, are important to secure while a strong ally like President Trump is still in office. Yet Netanyahu faces what some call a political mission impossible. He remains several seats short of a government majority, and he's surrounded by rival parties who say they're unwilling to join his coalition. With the Jewish New Year beginning next week, Netanyahu hopes those parties may have a change of heart. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
CBN News senior editor John Woggy is with us from Jerusalem now to talk about the latest twists and turns in Israel. John, you said on Wednesday's News Watch that it would be a surprise if President Rivlin made a quick decision on Netanyahu and Gantz. Why did he choose Netanyahu so quickly?
Yeah, Mark, it really did take people here by surprise. Almost everyone was surprised at the swiftness of his announcement. I think it was because he senses an urgency that the country needs to get on the track of forming some kind of government. And I think one of the things that's being underreported here in Israel among the Israeli media who are focusing on the politics of it is that Israel really does face some serious challenges, especially from Iran now, but also from Hezbollah, from Hamas and Gaza. I mean, there are a variety of serious challenges that Israel being without a government for a long period of time, or at least without an effective government, is going to be a real problem. And so he really did surprise people here by announcing it very soon after he could legally be allowed to do that Netanyahu would be the one to try and get the first crack at forming a government.
Why does the Prime Minister have such a tough challenge ahead of him?
Well, because there's such a deadlock between the two parties, and the race was very close between blue and white and Likud and Netanyahu, and so Netanyahu finds himself 6 seats short to get a 61 seat majority in the parliament, and there's really nowhere he can go on paper. The religious parties, he's bound by contract really to keep the religious parties on board with him, and Blue and White says they won't serve with religious parties. They want a secular government, and the guy in the middle, Avigdor Lieberman of Israel Beitenu, says he won't sit with the religious parties, and so there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu. Some people would like him to step down, and in fact, the papers here, a lot of them are starting to write, even from conservatives, political obituaries for Netanyahu. But I think it's a bit premature for that. He is the most accomplished politician ever in Israel's history, I think, and he's still got a shot at pulling off what would be a miracle, which is a coalition government.
Netanyahu has 4 weeks to form that government with a possible 2-week extension. I mean, you said it's going to take a miracle, but how do you think it's all going to pan out? I know I'm asking you to speculate. How can he get it done realistically?
Well, he can do a couple of things. He can tell the religious parties, look, I tried every way I knew how, but this country needs a government, and so I'm going to form a government maybe with one religious party or something like that, and try and get enough to form 61. Another thing he could do is try and get some blue and white people or some Israel Beitenu people to break away from their own party and join Likud and boost Likud up over the 32 seats they have now. So there are a couple of things that he can do, but really the opposition is probably going to dig in its heels after the holidays, which we begin with Rosh Hashanah very soon. So he's really got a very tight deadline in order to make something happen. And it just points up, Mark, that there's a lot of need for prayer for Israel right now. I think because the U.S. has had so many problems, people have focused around the world have focused their prayer efforts on that, and now people are turning to Israel and saying, wait a minute, this nation needs prayer. And so I think it's a good thing for everybody to remember that.
Very, very true. And the Bible commands us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. All right, John Wogge, thanks so much for your time and your insights. Switching gears now, the number of vaping deaths are now at 11 after Georgia and Florida health officials report deaths in their state. Meanwhile, the sale of vaping products, which includes one of the fastest growing segments of legal marijuana sales, are down. One attorney who specializes in, quote, cannabis law says the industry needs federal regulation.
My take on the vaping crisis is that overall it probably will not have a huge impact on the momentum of legalization at the federal level, hopefully other than to spur the feds to go ahead and regulate, because these things fall through the cracks when state governments are totally in charge of an otherwise unregulated nascent industry.
In addition to the 11 deaths, at least 530 people have become seriously ill from vaping. A psychiatry professor at one of the most renowned medical institutions in the world is warning against allowing children to change their gender, likening transgender treatment for minors to performing frontal lobotomies. Dr. Paul McHugh, a distinguished professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, told the College Fix there will likely be long-term negative implications for children allowed to engage in hormonal treatments for gender dysphoria. He also said, quote, many people are doing what amounts to an experiment on these young people without telling them it's an experiment. Coming up, conservative and Christian students speak out about how freedom of speech has been threatened in the one place where it should be protected, on America's college campuses.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. Earlier this year, President Trump signed an executive order to protect free speech at college campuses. He said he was taking the historic action to defend American students and values under siege by liberal ideologies. Paul Strand introduces us to students who say they've seen it firsthand.
America's the land of liberty, but to have a free people, you need free speech. And that's threatened in some places these days. It seems mostly on college campuses, which is ironic when you think that more than any place else, universities would treasure the robust exchange of ideas and unfettered free speech.
A recent poll found, though, that 68% of students believe a political and social climate on their campus keeps them from speaking freely.
They fear that their classmates might find their opinions offensive, so they just don't talk altogether.
Nicole Neely's group Speech First fights for free speech on campuses. She mentions another poll showing conservative students tend to censor themselves.
73% of strong Republicans say that they fear expressing opinions in class because they're worried that their grade might suffer.
Neely points out that's because it's often the professors who take offense. This article highlighted a professor writing, "I nearly had to cancel class because of how shaken I am about seeing a Build a Wall banner on our campus." He advocated curbing what he sees as dangerous free speech, saying, "This poses a threat to the mental well-being of many of our students, staff, and faculty, that it violates their sense of safety."
I actually was just on a panel with a professor from University of Maryland this week, and he said that he felt that students in class wearing something like a Make America Great hat would make him feel offended.
Neely says that can lead to unfair treatment and gave us an example of a Michigan student she knows.
His professor saw him wearing a Trump button and then refused to write him a letter of recommendation for med school.
In one case, a Wisconsin student was busted for passing out Valentines. Apparently, someone on campus was threatened by that and turned her in.
Every year, she hands out handmade Valentines that say Jesus loves you for Valentine's Day. She's religious, and somebody filed a complaint against her for doing so, and the school tried to shut her down. They said, you're not allowed to do this.
Neely points out it's often students themselves willing to curb the First Amendment because they think some speech can actually hurt them.
They want to be free from emotional harm, which is really, it's troubling in a way because you think, okay, well, this might be 4 years of your life, but you go out into the real world and you're not going to be protected from emotional harm.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Arlington, Virginia.
The group called Speech First won a free speech victory in the courts related to bias response teams at the University of Michigan. Speech First argued the school standards for harassment and bullying were so overboard it objectively chills speech, and an appeals court agreed. Still ahead, we'll hear about the suffering Christians face in the country with the worst persecution in the world, North Korea.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crabb Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Thanks for staying with us. During his visit to the United Nations this week, President Trump acted like he is in no hurry to meet for a third summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. The president suggested he'd have to be assured that something positive would come out of the meeting. Also at the UN, the president said religious freedom is a top priority of his administration. But is it a priority in negotiations with North Korea, some ask? Christians in the Hermit Kingdom face the worst persecution in the world. On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Voice of the Martyrs radio host Todd Nettleton shared some insights on what Christians are facing in North Korea and why.
You know, I think the thing that American Christians need to understand that is completely foreign to us is just to understand that when you follow Jesus Christ in North Korea, it's not just a matter of, hey, that's a different religion, or even, hey, that's a Western religion. To follow Jesus Christ in North Korea is treason, because the North Korean regime is built on this idea that the Kim family are divine beings. And even kindergartners are taught, when you sit down to a meal, you say, thank you, Father Kim Il-sung, for our food. So when you follow Jesus Christ, it's not just, you know, hey, that's a foreign religion. That undermines the veracity of the North Korean government. If Jesus Christ is God, then Kim isn't. And so it's treason to say that. It's treason to believe that. That's why the North Korean government doesn't just arrest you if you're found to be a Christian. They arrest your parents. They arrest your children. They want to completely wipe out even the idea of a different God than the Kim family. So I think that's something for people to understand, is just Christianity is completely incompatible with the ideology of the regime. They can't allow Christianity to function and to grow because it undermines their power.
And VOM has an amazing video out this year for the International Day of Prayer for the Persecuted Church on Song Chul. Tell us about his story. What about it has inspired you?
Well, one of the things, the story that we're trying to tell is the story of a martyred Christian named Pastor Han, who was a pastor in China, right along the North Korea border. And as North Koreans came across, he would help them. And he would help all of them, but some of them would also become believers. They would hear the gospel and they would accept it. And one of the things that Song Chul, who is featured in the video, the first way he met Pastor Han is he was out in the forest picking mushrooms, and Pastor Han offered to sell the mushrooms for him in the market, because as a North Korean, he didn't have, the right to do that legally. And so Pastor Han took the mushrooms, he sold them in the market, and he brought back all of the money. And Song Chul was like, he was honest with me. He was fair. That's uncommon. I wonder how he's different. That led to the conversation about, well, why are you different? Well, I'm different because I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And Song Chul, as other North Koreans, are taught that missionaries, Christians, they just want to take advantage of you. And in fact, they're taught that Christian missionaries, especially Western missionaries, actually eat North Korean children. And so his initial thought is, wow, I shouldn't even talk to this guy.
He might eat me.
He might eat me.
Or my kids.
He might, yeah. But the love that he was shown and the difference that he saw drew him, and he wanted to know more. He eventually became a believer in Christ and went back into North Korea and began, and again, we talk about sharing the faith like, hey, you're going to knock on some doors, you're going to say, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, are you interested? That's not how it is in North Korea at all. In fact, even to tell your spouse, to tell your family members, that's a huge step, because they might report you. Neighbors are expected to report on their neighbors. If there's anything strange going on at your neighbor's house, you're supposed to report that to the local officials.
And what happens if you're arrested?
You disappear. That's the reality. If you're found to be a Christian, you are going to a labor camp or a political prisoner camp, and probably you won't come out alive. The life expectancy in those camps is somewhere around 5 years, if you last that long. The average sentence is around 15 years, so it's basically a death sentence. And so we tell the story of Pastor Han through the eyes of Song Chul, one of his converts, one of his disciples. And Pastor Han was assassinated inside China by North Korean agents. And you say, well, how do you know that? There actually was a TV ceremony on North Korean television as they honored these North Korean agents for this successful mission, defending the fatherland, shutting down this pastor. But the other thing to think about that, and this is inside China that this happened, that he was killed. The Chinese government actually lets North Korean agents come across to round up North Koreans and drag them back home. And also, in this case, to kill a Christian pastor who had been helping North Korean refugees.
You can hear more from Voice of the Martyrs Todd Nettleton about North Korea and Christians in China tonight on the Global Lane. It's at 9:30 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, back here at home, images from across the nation of students gathering to pray at their schools Wednesday for See You at the Pole.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Students gathered for See You at the Pole yesterday all across the nation. It's an event each year where they gather to pray for their schools, communities, and nation. And all throughout the day, they sent us images. Take a look.
Prayed about just the administration as a whole for our school. We prayed for the school, all the schools across the nation, that they would just feel that sense of community and love and foster that. We prayed for the people in the circle, and we prayed that they would just be able to be a light to others spiritually, and we prayed for just everything around us, for the administration, for our nation in general, as we're going through a really tough time right now.
Prayer is important to more than just high school students and middle school students, but especially for us, that it's an opportunity for us to realize that we have more than just our problems inside a high school and middle school community, but everywhere. It's an opportunity for us to make a relationship with our Father for our future and our lives.
I think it definitely shows a sense of unification and the fact that we can all gather. Private Christian schools and public schools anywhere in the world, they can gather and pray and lift up requests to our God and our Father, who answers them daily. There's so much power in prayer.
It's wonderful to see, isn't it? Well, we want to thank all the students, parents, and school staffers who sent in images throughout the day. It was great to see all those events. We have a longer version of this story on our website and social media where you can see more of the photos. Just go to cbnnews.com or our Facebook page. And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel anytime. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.